Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Friday, July 5th. Over the next several days, even going into next week, we will have very hot conditions across the Great Basin. The area in purple is near record or record heat, spreading eastward across much of Nevada and even into southwest Idaho. Also, gusty winds will occur over the eastern half of the Great Basin. We have a strong ridge of high pressure dominating along the west coast. So on the east side of this ridge, we'll see breezy winds today with low relative humidity in parts of Idaho and Utah. And then these winds will strengthen on Saturday anywhere from southern Idaho into northern and northeast Utah, and also some other breezy winds on the fringes. But we could see gusts above 30 or 40 miles per hour in many areas with relative humidity between 8 and 13%. On Sunday, these winds shift further south, and then eventually we will see some lighter winds going into the early part of next week. But the heat will continue with very low daytime relative humidity and very poor recoveries for Nevada and Utah into the Arizona Strip. No precipitation or lightning to speak of. We've had many new fires across the Great Basin coming out of the holiday, all looks like at this time staying on the small side, so we'll see how things progress going into the very hot and dry conditions, but definitely a lot of IA. Over the last 14 days, very dry conditions over the western and northern portions of the Great Basin in Idaho and Nevada, with the exception of some local areas. Otherwise, that precipitation over southern and eastern Utah associated with some monsoon moisture has definitely occurred several days ago or longer and is on the drying trend. ERCs continue to rise, and we are seeing ERCs above the 90th or even 97th percentile in parts of the southern half of the Great Basin, western areas, kind of around the fringes of the Great Basin going up into Wyoming. And all areas will continue to see rising ERCs rapidly over the next 7 days. Looking at some of our fuel conditions, the top right image here shows 100-hour fuel moisture along the Sierra front, and you can see from the blue line 100-hour fuel moisture representative of our sagebrush is well below normal, and it will be declining very rapidly to setting new records likely within the 7-day period. We'll also see those similar conditions with 100 and 1,000-hour fuel moistures across much of Nevada, Utah, and Arizona, again well below normal and setting new records. ERCs also will continue to rapidly rise across all areas of the Great Basin and could be near record levels or setting new records across Nevada, Utah, and the Arizona Strip. The satellite image from this morning shows that strong ridge of high pressure dominating along the west coast, and the northwest winds on the east side of the ridge again is what we'll be seeing, those breezy conditions from Idaho down into Utah. Looking at the weather pattern for later today, you can just see the strong ridge with the very dry conditions across the Great Basin. We have no high risk for the breezy winds today, as most gusts will remain below 30 miles per hour. However, after the holiday, certainly could see in areas that we had some starts, could see some of those fires pick up depending on the area. Relative humidity will mainly be in the low single digits across much of Nevada and Utah and Arizona, and up in the teens up in Idaho. And you can see those breezy winds today, again most gusts in the 20s, maybe around 30 miles per hour in some spots. Temperatures will continue to rise. We'll be over 100 degrees in western Nevada, mid-90s up in Idaho, and over 113 down south. Still some cooler conditions in that northwest flow over eastern Idaho, Wyoming, and parts of Utah. Relative humidity recoveries overnight will only recover into the single digits down over southern areas, in teens over much of western Nevada into southern Utah and Arizona. As we move into Saturday, these winds strengthen a little bit as disturbance moves into the northern Rockies and drops south, so that will clip us and increase those winds. So we do have some high risk for winds in southern Idaho and northeast Utah, where the winds will be strongest and the relative humidity is lowest, where fuels are most critical. But again, expect those stronger wind gusts of 30 to 40 miles per hour in a larger area of eastern Idaho and northern Nevada, or northern Utah rather. We'll also see some of those gusty winds in northeast Nevada, so we will have to watch that. Otherwise, high risk for those record temperatures, as we will continue with those temperatures going into Saturday. Relative humidity continues to drop, with single digits spreading even further north, and again you can see those stronger winds on Saturday in Idaho, Wyoming, and northern Utah, and some breezier winds up in northeast Nevada. Temperatures continue to climb, be over or near 106 in western Nevada, 114 in the south, and finally reaching the low 90s in parts of Utah that have been cooler, and those overnight recoveries again very poor across the southern two-thirds of the Great Basin. On Sunday, that ridge continues to dominate, more areas of high risk for those record or near record temperatures, and the high risk for winds as those winds spread further south on Sunday. And you can see those stronger winds, again, more in southern Utah, the Arizona Strip, gusts in the 35 to 40 mile per hour range or higher. And then the breezy winds extend further west, and again, plenty of single-digit relative humidity. So we will see what kind of new fires we get, but definitely the potential for growth is there with the winds and the very dry daytime conditions, and also the very poor overnight recoveries, which would extend burning periods if we do get starts with some spread in the right areas. Temperatures on Sunday, again, remain near record levels or at record levels across much of western and even down into southern Nevada. And then no precipitation expected for the next 3 days, actually for the next week. The high pressure continues to dominate and spread eastward, so those hotter temperatures will continue spreading eastward across the Great Basin. Another day on Monday of near or at record heat for parts of Nevada. And then these conditions continue into Tuesday, Wednesday, and going into Thursday. Again, a very hot, a prolonged period of hot and dry conditions with low daytime humidities in the single digits and poor recoveries. 7-day total precipitation, we might start to see some of that moisture work its way north enough for some isolated thunderstorms toward the end of the 7-day period in southern Utah or northern Arizona, but you can see much of the deeper moisture well off to the south and east. So any lightning we get will definitely be on the dry side, and it will be something we'll continue to monitor as we go into next week, trying to pinpoint when those first thunderstorms will start to appear. The 8 to 14 day outlook shows continued hot temperatures from July 12th through the 18th across really all of the west, well above normal. And then the return of moisture will start maybe at the end of our 7-day period and increase as we go towards the 15th through the 18th of the month, mainly over southern and eastern areas. Not likely we'll see a lot of above normal precipitation in the Great Basin, but definitely a return of moisture. So it'll be these fringe areas in northern Utah and much of Nevada that we'll be watching for drier type lightning and a significant increase in fire potential after this long period of very hot, dry weather. Looking at the model estimated precipitation, this is through July 19th, so you can see some of that deeper moisture eventually working its way into northern Arizona, probably a little bit more spotty even into Utah with the heavier precipitation, and then definitely as you go north and west into Nevada, parts of Idaho, Wyoming, definitely more on the fringe of that moisture, so not really expecting that deep monsoon moisture to make it much further north than parts of Utah. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back tomorrow for the latest updates.